Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Soul Ashraya, a weekly Bhakti podcast. We will seek the shelter and wisdom of our dear Lord Krishna with Shastra, prayer, and conversation. I am your host, Bhakti Jake. Joined with me is my extremely patient friend and teacher, Balaram Shakti Das, located somewhere in the heart of beautiful, scenic, and dry Arizona. And we are doing the show at a different time, but we're doing it because we have time to do it now. And so we are going to do it now. So, uh, Balaram, how are you? And tell me about what you're wearing today.
Wearing a very
I have a
normal t-shirt.
wearing a peach cheddar with Nitai Karunga.
Yeah.
Is that who it is, Nitai? Nitai?
Oh, it's Lord
Or is
Chaitanya.
that Lord Chaitanya? Oh, it is Lord Chaitanya. I'm telling you, man, right up there, staying up on the fashion, staying right there
Oh,
with the. We should
it's
just
not
start a
a fashion
podcast
thing.
of Hare Krishna fashion. We'll just you can stand up and like curl around, and I'll talk.
Yeah, I would not be on that podcast.
Oh no.
I'm a
Uh,
utilitarian, 100%.
thank you, ladies and gentlemen, Prabhus and Matajis, for tuning in to our very humble podcast. We thank you for watching this. We are going to make a strong comeback. Um, we had some very testing things happening with our computer, and we're getting things sorted out because we run on a very shoestring budget. So I'm just I love I look at Balaram and he's just calm, like like a calm pond. He's just placid like a pond. And I'm like, I don't know what to do. My computer's so slow. So thank you for watching this podcast on our YouTube channel. And thank you for liking and subscribing and leaving comments. And thank you for watching and spending a little bit of time with us. Without further ado, we are going to get into what we do on this podcast. We are going to read out of the Krishna book, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If you have this one, we are on page 27, right in the middle of it. Our last podcast, we talk about the tree of desire. We got into some very heavy things. But before we get into the word, we are going to do some invocations, and I will bring out those up for the audience. If you want to, if you'd like to not sing along, but pray along.
We forgot we need to add in the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya mantra to the top of that.
Yeah, I'll I'll bring them up, and then we can do the Om Namo. Bringing
Because that's not technically listed under the Mangalacharna prayers, but we do start with that, so we'll
yeah,
try to add that on there.
yeah. There it is. All right, Prabhu, go ahead.
Yeah, the first one's very simple. It's the best one to learn, best one to start with for learning mantras, prayers. This is very simple. Just 4 words. Om, you can repeat Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. And that basically means let me bring my full conscious, respectful attention to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is known as Vasudeva, that all-pervading personality of Godhead, who is also Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva. This very wonderful, sweet personality whom we are meditating on. So, very nice mantra. So we start with that because it really does like kind of dial in the consciousness, and then we follow with the Mangala Charana, which means to invoke auspiciousness, and that means offering prayers of respect to our teachers. That's how you invoke auspiciousness. It's like we try to do so much on our own in this world, right, Jake? Trying to, like our computer, it's just like doing its own thing. But as soon as the computer starts obeying its master, it works very nicely. Crude example. But that's the idea, when we're doing things just on our own, it's like, who knows, all bets are off, sort of thing. But if we bring our consciousness to the feet of our masters and well-wishers, our true spiritual well-wishers, then, how can there be anything inauspicious? We're situated in the safest place in the universe, a shelter that doesn't go anywhere, So that is the Soul Ashraya. That is what we're doing here. We're bringing ourselves wholeheartedly, the soul, to the shelter of the soul, which is the feet of the spiritual masters and ultimately the feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So with that, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai Jai.
Bye. I had a dream of Srila Prabhupada last night, Jake.
Really?
I have not had a dream with Prabhupada in several years. I had a few, like my first year in the movement, I had a couple, and the last one I had was the most beautiful dream I've ever had.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was like at least 2 years ago. And so I've been like, why isn't he in my dreams anymore? Like I'm so fallen. Does he still like me?
So what happened in the dream?
So I was walking with someone, I don't remember who, maybe, friend or god brother. Maybe a friend, because I was trying to recall to him where Prabhupada was living in Vrindavan or in India before he came to America, where he was living when he wrote his books, namely the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which he wrote that in 3 volumes, after which his spiritual master appeared to him in a vision and said, now is the time to go to America. And so the place that he wrote that book was very, very holy place, very, um, very elevated place. And so I was trying to remember where that was, and I was asleep, and my consciousness, my intelligence, like wasn't fully there. And so I said the name of some, maybe I even like made up the name, like Sri Radha Krishna, or whatever, temple in Jagannath Puri. I said a place in Jagannath Puri. I don't know if Prabhupada ever lived in Jagannath Puri. I know he visited Jagannath Puri. But then, without even realizing it, Srila Prabhupada was walking next to me. This person was like walking behind me, and Prabhupada was walking right next to me. And as if like a facet of my intelligence, and he just sort of he didn't disagree that it was Jagannath Puri. He just sort of nodded. And then I was waking up, like I woke up right after this. And I'm like, oh, and no, yeah, it was Vrindavan, Rupa Goswami's Samadhi. I knew, like, yeah, the first one, I was thinking it was some Acharya. It was like his deities, because each of the Goswamis, they had their own Radha Krishna deities that they worshipped. And then there's a temple associated with those. But not in Jagannath Puri that I'm aware of. Anyway, I'm like, oh yeah, Rupa Goswami's Samadhi and his like tomb, right, in Vrindavan. It's like the most sanctified place in the universe. uh Actually, yeah, Prabhupada said that he wrote a letter, I think right before his passing, I believe, maybe, or I don't remember when, that said something to the effect of this, like stating how holy this samadhi was, and that all of the personalities in our entire lineage, getting this, Jake?
Yep. Yes.
are
Right.
eternally present in Rupa Goswami's samadhi, right? All of the acharyas of our entire lineage are eternally present in Rupa Goswami's samadhi. Actually, this letter is written on Prabhupada's desk in his like quarters there at the samadhi. You can go there, and Kirtaneshwar went, and a friend of ours said, go in there, chant 1 round of japa, and then read the letter that's there on Prabhupada's desk. It must be like a carbon copy or something. And so he chanted his japa, and then he read this letter, and Prabhupada's writing this, and then at the end, Prabhupada says, I am also eternally present in this room. Like his full presence is there. And it's like goosebumps,
Yeah.
because you feel this immense. You go to these like tombstone, any like tombstone, I think every culture has the idea that like that person's presence, there's some like strand, you know, something connecting with that person, their presence can be felt to, someone. So yeah, so in my dream, I'm like, yeah, it was Rupa Goswami's Samadhi, and it was ecstatic, just like remembering that place, even just remembering that place, and so Prabhupada was there. He just, walking next to me, like totally unassuming, so kind and sweet. That's like, it's kind of, you can't really describe the presence of Srila Prabhupada, but and it was the same like sentiment in the other dreams I've had with him. He's like so much more like the way that he is with me. I mean, it's a personal relationship, and this is what our teachers say is that Srila Prabhupada has a personal relationship with every single member of ISKCON. We're not just like numbers in a congregation, that like you all need to surrender this personality and he'll take you back to the kingdom of God. No, it's not like that. Prabhupada actually has a personal relationship with you. It's actually eternal. Our relationship with all living entities is eternal. And in this movement, we have an opportunity to deepen that relationship. So like the first dreams I had of Prabhupada, it was like, wow, it feels like I have a relationship with, like I already had, like in my dream, I'm experiencing this very real personality in a very real relationship with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's true. That's what it is. Anytime a guru appears in your dream, it's real. It's not just a dream. Most dreams are just, phantasmagoria. But if a guru appears in your dream, it's very real. Their spirit is actually interfacing with your subtle body. So try to write them down. Try to write those dreams down so you can remember them. Because they can teach you things as well. Like Prabhupada appeared to my spiritual master, Jivananda Dasvanachari, just before Prabhupada's passing. This is actually a wonderful dream. I think of this dream a lot. He was with Srila Prabhupada and he carried Prabhupada. Prabhupada was like sitting cross-legged and he carried him, just like in his arms. And he carried him into a car and then they drove to some program. He carried Prabhupada out, put him on a Vyasasan, the seat, and Prabhupada gave a lecture, right? He gave a talk. And then afterwards, he, was with Prabhupada and Prabhupada said, did you see how I preached, right? Did you understand like the, the way, right? The style. And he's like, yes, Srila Prabhupada. And he's like, this is how I want you to preach. Yes, Srila Prabhupada. Do you understand? Did you understand all of, this, how I was preaching? He's like, yes, Srila Prabhupada. I said, okay, very good. And then the next morning, he told one of his god brothers who was with Srila Prabhupada in Vrindavan and Tamal Krishna Goswami, I believe, because he was very, very close with Tamal Krishna Goswami.
Oh, your
Yeah.
guru was?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. They were best
I
friends.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Did you know that I listen to a lot of Tamal stuff?
He is amazing.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
was in Dallas, and that's why he was in Dallas when I was in Dallas. And
That's when my guru was also in Dallas.
oh my goodness gracious.
What? You lived in Dallas?
I lived in Dallas from 19 oh my god, I don't even want to say. I basically lived there for a year with my uncle and and then a little more, but it was in the late 90s and I'm telling you, I was there, but I was the furthest thing from Krishna consciousness. I'm just saying that I was there, and
Right.
so I have an affinity for the city of Dallas because that's where my mom grew up, and that's where like half my family grew up. So I first I found out about Tamal, and then I found out that he was in Dallas. So it was like a double win, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I try to listen to him as much as I can. I do. He does have some great stuff. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, he was Srila Prabhupada's right hand man.
He
And
seems
yeah.
close. It seemed like he was
What's
close
that?
to Prabhupada. It
Oh,
seemed like he was close to Prabhupada. Yeah.
he was perhaps the closest to Prabhupada, at least in his last days, because Prabhupada would kind of come in and out of consciousness just like, sleep. And then as soon as he would wake up, the moment he would wake up, he would say, "Where is Tamal? Bring me Tamal."
Yeah.
He trusted him absolutely,
Yeah.
and yeah. So yeah, I had a very, very wonderful dream with Tamal Krishna Swami
Oh,
once
wow.
as well. That was otherworldly. His being is so unbelievably loving, like like a child, like the innocence of purity of love that I received from him was, you would not believe. You so anyway, yeah, he served with my guru for many years. He was practically my
Oh,
guru's son's like uncle. Like he was going to be his guru as well. He was his godfather. But then he passed suddenly. What
yeah.
was I saying? Oh yeah, so Tamal Krishna Goswami was right
Yeah.
beside Prabhupada in his final, days, weeks, months in Vrindavan. And so Jivananda Prabhu called Tamal Krishna Goswami, if I'm remembering correctly. It was him, and because he would have known what he told him, because he asked, like, why, it was weird, I was carrying Prabhupada, like, why, what's that about? He's like, Jivananda, like, you don't know, but Prabhupada can't walk anymore. He's lost the ability to use his legs, because he was, how do you say, his body was, dwindling, and his final weight was like 65 pounds, I think, when he passed. Doctors couldn't understand how he was still alive. They said, this doesn't make any sense. Like, you should be in incredible pain right now. So anyway, yeah, that was a very amazing dream. Uh, yeah, so the point with that was that Prabhupada has a unique relationship with us, and when the guru appears in the dream, he can give you instructions even. So like that dream was like Prabhupada directly showed up and was like, "Here's how I want you to preach. This will be your preaching style." And I see that my guru has a very definite, sort of like a defined, um, not that it's defined like in that sense, but a very like characteristic manner and style and like method even that he preaches, and he's has honed it over the years and is very skillful, and it's very expert. uh it's expert and like so incredibly loving, like from the heart, and um you can't not love him, and the way that he speaks. But for us, his grandchildren,
So he was
so
following the orders that
exactly,
Prabhupada gave him.
yeah, and that's what he gives all credit to. He says, "For my own part, I have no credit, just that I'm trying to follow Srila Prabhupada."
Yeah.
And that's the sign of a true guru, that they're 100% a disciple. That's the only way to become a guru. You can't just claim like, I'm a guru now, and you all have to know that makes you nothing. But being a follower, because that's the only way that you can give shelter, is if you yourself are taking shelter. And if you take perfect shelter, then you become perfect shelter. So the relationship between guru and disciple is very serious in that regard. It's a grave
Yeah.
thing. And so Prabhupada was very strict with, particularly with certain disciples of his, because he was training them in a very particular way. Again, our movement, our philosophy is very personal. Actually, the spiritual reality, not just our movement, but the spiritual reality is very personal, right? We always say this. It's not that the guru should be this thing. Like, this is what my thought like of a guru. Like I had an idea of what a guru was. I had this image that I projected onto different spiritual teachers, on my journey, that I thought, like, this is an actual guru. He's a self-realized soul, and he has this quality of this like oneness of being, right? And that's very impersonal to think of a guru as being the same to everyone, and this again, so sameness, like oneness, there's qualitative and quantitative. I was speaking about this yesterday in class, how people think they're looking for quality. We know in our heart that equality is there, has to be there. There has to be, all men are created equal, sort of thing, right? And then it's like we say that we know what that means, but then like as a case in point, it's like, no, all men and women are created, or we can't even say that, like all humans are created equal. Well, then, what about other species? It's like, well, we get caught up in the body because we're looking for that equality. The statement, all men are created equal, it means all children of God are created equal. But it's a spiritual statement, right? The writers of of
Yeah.
of that
Oh,
document,
yeah.
they were thinking spiritually. They were
Yeah.
highly spiritual individuals,
Yeah.
right? They were
Absolutely.
not making certainly not making a gender statement, right? That much is obvious just by the context of, you know, English writing, like the way that the English language is used, just like every other language, it uses those things in gender neutral sense, you know. Um, but our culture now is so caught up in the body that we're taking statements like that are obviously spiritual, and we're making them about the body, and all the equality that we're looking for, we're looking for it on the bodily platform. Just like, was it in the last session we did? Like, we're talking about science, right? Was it? Or maybe it was the Bhagavatam class. But like how scientists are trying to reduce reality to just collection of atoms and interaction of things on a material
Yeah.
basis. Like life comes from matter, right? And if we just study the material elements, we can figure out the riddle of life.
Right.
And we don't need to include God anywhere in that.
A riddle.
Right? It's a
Well, it must
puzzle.
be a riddle, right? It's got to be a riddle. It's a riddle.
Yeah.
What
We
is
just got to
this?
think about it. Maybe it's this. Yeah. So necessarily, it leaves you with needing to find equality on a material platform, that every body is the same. And that means there's no divine blueprint for your life that makes you equal with everyone else. No, like you need to, like, you can be whatever you want to be. You want to be president, you can become president. It's like, no, you can't. You don't have the qualification, nor do you have the karma. You can't just tell someone that, give them these ideas that you can become anything, and then blast them with information overload of TikTok and Instagram, and just give them hundreds of thousands, millions of different impressions of what they can and should be. It's overwhelming. It's no wonder kids are committing suicide. They don't know who they are or what they're supposed to be or what they should uh, endeavor to become. Whereas, if you take the Varnashram model, the spiritual civilization, real civilization, there you understand through your adhikar and through your karma that you have a certain destiny. You have a very simple, life set in front of you. And if you walk that in a righteous, godly way, you'll be very happy. You know,
Yeah.
you don't need all like millions of people giving you impressions of who to be. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That makes
But we don't like that because we don't think that's equality. We think if we have different classes of society, then everyone's different. Some are higher, some are lower. How can you call that equality? That's segregation. That's caste mentality. It's like,
seems
no,
like
it's not.
Yeah, it does. It seems like the caste system has been made out. It's been exploited to be made into something that it's not. And my first impression of the caste system is like
Intimidating.
horrifying. They're all separate, and people are dying because they can't touch them, and da da da. And that's like you get into it, and you find out that that is all completely unreal and false, and it's just false information. The Van Ashram system is actually a pretty good system, but I don't even know if we have time to get into that on the show today, because that's a whole ball of wax right there. Like we could spend a whole show, if not two shows, just talking about that, the Van Ashram system, you know,
Yeah.
the
Well, the
baiting
basic
that
point,
was set up, you know.
yeah.
But
Well, I mean, it's very simple. The basic point, just look at this. Like, is this model society working that you give each individual unlimited possibilities and no direction in life? And in fact, quite the opposite. You make their direction so much more complicated. You make their life impossibly complicated and so stressful because they have no idea what to do with themselves, and only like a rare few sort of like kind of rise to the top and like make it,
yeah,
right? Well,
yeah,
they make it, and that's like the 1%, 2%, whereas everyone else is just struggling to figure out who they are. Whereas you have another society that doesn't look like everyone has equal opportunity, but that's because it's not, the opportunity given is not material, it's spiritual. Spiritually, everyone in Varnashram has equal opportunity to become self-actualized, self-realized, because you have a dharma, you have a psychophysical propensity to fulfill, that you've been given, allotted by God. Some people are made to have children, some people are not. They don't have the karma for it, they don't have whatever, and as much as they try, they can't have children. You know, it, there's a whole, okay, we don't want to get
oh
into that
yeah,
whole,
I know, it's a whole thing.
but if you simply follow the dharma that you've been given, you'll be very happy, and you'll be able to realize God because you'll abide by life very simply, simple living and high thinking. That's the solution. Prabhupada has shown us, revealed to us, that you can have spiritual equality, right? Yeah, I don't remember how we got into that, but
Well, do you want to move to the text?
let's do that.
Okay, I've got it all queued up. I'm
Just
going
jump
to,
right in here.
yeah, share the screen. Sharing is caring. And I am going to share the screen. Do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do,
Okay,
do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. That's my screen sharing music.
that was good. Thank you.
That's what the computer sounds like when when the gears are turning inside this computer that's 100 years old. Okay, so anyway.
So much free entertainment here in
Yes,
Soul Ashraya podcast.
yes,
All right, would you like to read?
sure. I'll read. I would be honored to read. It would be my honor, Prabhu.
Go right ahead, Prabhu.
The root cause of the material manifestation described here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expands himself to take charge of the three qualities of the material world. Vishnu takes charge of the modes of goodness. Brahma takes charge of the mode of passion. Lord Shiva takes charge of the mode of ignorance. Brahma, by the mode of passion, creates this manifestation. Lord Vishnu maintains the manifestation by the mode of goodness, and Lord Shiva annihilates it by the mode of ignorance. The whole creation ultimately rests in the Supreme Lord. He is the cause of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. And when the whole manifestation is dissolved in its subtle form as his energy, it rests within his body.
All right,
This is
let's
Krishna
pause.
book we're reading. We're reading out a Krishna book today.
This is the Krishna book.
This is the Krishna book.
Learning about Krishna.
That's what
So
we're
this
doing.
is, yeah. So this is a very fundamental tidbit lesson here to understand the three modes and which are called gunas in Sanskrit, and the avatars of those gunas, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. So, and then the Supreme Lord being one. So this is very important to understand. Generally, when people think of Hinduism, they think of it as being polytheistic, that they have multiple gods, and the three main gods are Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And you just kind of pick one, like you're starting a Pokemon game and you have to pick one of the three Pokemon, right?
That
Um,
I don't
you've
know.
been,
I'm
oh, that was that after your time?
yeah, I'm from a different thing. We didn't have Pokemon. We had a tire and a stick. That's all we had when I was young. I had a
Oh,
stick and a tire, and I had to use my imagination. Sometimes I had some hay bales. Yeah,
okay.
I had a shovel. That was a fun toy. Shovel, hammer, nails.
Ah,
Yeah, that's how it was out here, dude.
oh my God.
We didn't have cards. We didn't have Nintendos.
Yeah, I didn't have a Nintendo
So
either. I had my
I
cousin's
had
Nintendo.
Nintendo. I had both. I had like a little bit of technology, but a, a more of being outside and using the imagination and the faculties in nature.
Oh yeah, we did it. We did as well.
Yeah,
We certainly did as well.
best thing for you, really. Best thing for kids is to be running around outside.
Yeah,
My humble opinion.
absolutely. Um, yeah, you need to keep the imagination stimulated, or else what it does to the mind, it just reduces you. How to explain, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
and then because then life becomes something very stale. And this is actually, yeah, this is something that a friend of mine who's becoming a teacher is saying that, because we were talking about this, how children now, they're so plugged into their phones and that they've become apathetic to everything, namely becoming educated, and they just have zero attention, right? Your attention span goes down, your neurochemicals, your hormones are totally imbalanced. You look at young, like preteen girls, and it's like you can't even tell what age they are because their hormones are already, in the way that they're dressing, of course, they're imitating, sex symbols in society, which I mean, that's a whole nother thing. But just the ability for the imagination to be active, you know, it gives you a spark of wonder in this world that keeps you very much living, like in the realm of the living. As soon as you cease to wonder, you enter the realm of the dead. You are as good as a dead body walking.
Yeah,
You're a dead man walking.
yeah,
No, you're just a machine
yeah.
at that point.
Well, I must be good because I am just absolutely full of wonder every day.
All right,
I
great.
wonder where I am all the time.
I
Yo,
walked right into that
where am I?
one. That's okay though, because a part of wonder, what that means is it means inquiry, right? Like you
Yeah,
ask, even if you're like totally lost, but we should be wondering like that. Because ultimately that's what I mean. Like, where am I? Who am I? What am I doing here? What's the nature of this world? You can't ask those questions if you don't have a sense of wonder about this world. And that sense of wonder, this means that sense of wonder is directly connected to your sense of God, right? He is wonder. That's what we're all wondering about. And as soon as we stop wondering, we cut off our connection with God.
yeah.
So this
That's a
paragraph,
very profound statement right there,
yeah,
actually.
yeah,
That's pretty good.
yeah.
Your wondering is connected with God. Yeah, absolutely.
That is the object of meditation, actually. And we're going to hear about that in the next few
Oh,
paragraphs, right?
yeah, let me
That
share.
everything that we're everything that we're going for with our mind and our intelligence is meant to be directed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But we've lost that sense of wonder, and we're not able to find that directive towards him anymore. And so spiritual inquiry is how we kind of reignite that. So the demigods here are teaching us, through example, how to find our way back to God by first understanding just these very basic, like building blocks of the cosmos, how everything is kind of set up. And it's set up with three principal energies or three qualities, these three gunas. As you're wandering and wandering through the world, right? Try to first understand that there are three active principles, right? There's goodness, passion, and ignorance, right? Goodness brings you up, passion brings you out, ignorance brings you down. You could say broadly like that, right? We've discussed this before.
Yeah,
And that there is a personality who is an expansion. It's saying that the one Supreme Lord expands himself to take charge of the three qualities of the material world. So the principal expansion is Vishnu, who is taking charge of the mode of goodness or maintenance, that quality that maintains things, keeps the planet spinning in orbit, like on, like keeping perfect time, right?
yeah,
Keeping order. It's like scientists are saying that everything came from a big bang and it's all random. And our appearance here is totally random. That is totally bogus because there's not a single thing in this world that is random or um, coming from chaos. There is not, like, nothing in this world is chaotic. Everything is perfectly ordered. Not a single scientist can explain that. And this is why most scientists are actually, at least uh, traditionally, they have been, maybe now it's less and less, but they've been theists because you have to believe that there's, the more that you look at this world, the more that you see order.
yeah,
If you go to the deeper and more refined levels of the universe, you're just going to see more and more order, you know. But because their sense of wonder is diminishing, they're getting more hooked on their smartphones, just like all the rest of us, right? They're getting tied in to this dopamine feed and this overstimulation and dependence on more and more stimulation. The Bhagavad Gita talks about this. The more that you try to satisfy or satiate the cravings of the senses, the more stimulation you need from the senses. and the less wonder you're left with, right? You got there's a, you know, negative, what is it called? Correlation between wonder and sensory stimulation. You know, you're either doing one or the other, you know. So you can't be sitting and being like, be contemplating or watching like a, you know, action movie. You know what I mean? So the scientists, even those who are supposed to be really investigating how God is manifesting in this world, they're losing that sense, you know. So the demigods are
there
saying you.
are some there are some spiritual movies that you can watch. You know, you got like a like Predator 2.
Well,
You know, I mean there
oh,
are
I thought you were doing
there's a
that.
lot there. It is training you how.
Is that the Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yeah.
Get to the chopper. We have a joke because it sounds like get to the Joppa. So we can get to the
Oh,
Joppa.
oh,
Do it
that's
now.
oh yeah. Oh, that's great. Oh,
Do it
that's a good
now.
one.
Like, yes, oh yes, Arnold, I'm gonna get back to my Joppa. I'm gonna do it right now. No,
That
but
is.
you have to then, you know, pull back from the movie to then be in the now and, you know, do
Yeah,
that
yeah, I like
practice
it.
meditation.
That is fantastic. Good job, Paul.
It's Java.
Um,
uh, so there has to be a balance of going out into the world. We have passion. We have to go out. We have to get pulled out a little bit, but we need the mode of goodness to pull us back in. So the mode of passion can either, if we have a spiritual intelligence, we will return to the mode of goodness, which is sort of inertia, as opposed to just letting that passion drain you and fall into tamas, which is also inertia, but that just pulls you down, less consciousness, lower consciousness, less wonder, you know. So in this paragraph, they're describing these three qualities and the three personalities behind them. That, yeah, it's not just some random thing
right.
that's just material energy and godless. No, these all of these things, you know, we're talking last session, we talked about all the different elements of the material universe, you know, and the microcosmic body, you know, this human form, all the different senses and humors of the body, you know, the gates, 9 gates, the
Yeah.
life airs. Actually, speaking of the life airs, my guru was saying last night how he heard some, I don't remember where, but the scientists, this is what the material scientists are saying, that if you took every organism in the world and took all of the air, all the ether, actually, the ether means space, right? It's the fifth element. That if you took all of the space out of every living entity, you would be able to, sorry, you would be able to fit the remainder in this cup. Think about that. Your body and every other body in the world can fit in this cup for air, right? So we're mostly air. We're 99.9 whatever percent air, like space rather, right? So, you know, my reflection on that was like, wow, like it really is just life airs that this infinitesimal soul, because there's like a infinitesimal soul like particle, and then our body, our physical body, is like even smaller. So really what it is just the life airs that your soul is spreading its influence. And that's what the Bhagavad Gita is saying. The soul spreads its influence by the life airs. So yeah, well, it's not, anyway, lost my train of thought. I was saying, like, it's not impersonal, but there's actually okay, yeah, the previous paragraph was talking about the material elements, how all of it is set up and that God is the source of all of it. So he's the source of all of these things, the life airs, he's the controller of the life airs, the material body that we have, the soul that we are, he's the source. So everything in this world is him. We can see everything in this, we can see him in everything. And then these gunas as well. These are like the overarching principles of everything, here, that God is also behind this, and that he manifests as these three avatars, of goodness, passion, ignorance, as Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. And so, again, people think that Hinduism is polytheistic, that these are different gods, right? And that, oh, this is a person who worships Shiva, and then there's someone who worships Brahma, and there's someone who worships Vishnu. They're three, three gods in the same religion, and that these people have the same religion, and that religion just acknowledges different gods. Or then there's people who worship any and all of them. It's pretty agnostic. It's like, well, let's just worship all of them, cover all of our bases. And this is actually atheism. Polytheism is a covered form of atheism, because atheism means you do not acknowledge one supreme Godhead, right? And that is not what Hinduism actually is. That's a developed. What's that?
Sanatana Dharma.
Sanatana Dharma. Yeah, the Sanatana Dharma is the full development or the maturity of what we now call Hinduism. But Sanatana Dharma is the original name of there is one supreme Godhead. It's very obvious that everything is emanating from one source. How could there be different gods? It just doesn't make sense. So these three beings are all emanating from Krishna, actually.
Yeah. You want me to read?
And the demigods are going to mention Krishna next. What's that?
You want me to read some more?
Please.
Yes. At present, the demigods prayed. The Supreme Lord Krishna is appearing just for the maintenance of this manifestation. Actually, the supreme cause is one, but less intelligent persons, being deluded by the three modes of material nature, see that the material world is manifested through different causes. Those who are
just what we were saying, thinking that there's different gods, different causes. We're saying no, there's one cause.
Yes. Those who are intelligent can see that the cause is one, Krishna. As it is stated in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara
Ishvaraha Parama Krishna Sarvakaranakaranam.
Yeah, that's what I said. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the cause of all causes. Brahma is the deputed agent for creation. Vishnu is the expansion of Krishna for maintenance. And Lord Shiva is the expansion of Krishna for dissolution.
Interesting little point that he says that Brahma is the deputed agent, not the expansion, because Brahma is generally a jiva, a infinitesimal spirit soul of the same category as us, whereas Vishnu and Shiva are expansions of God himself. That's a very technical point, but it's a very scientific philosophy, and so that's a nice one to know. Might be helpful.
Sure.
All right. Yeah, let's just read one more. Do we have time to read one more?
Yeah, we got time to read one more.
Okay. All right, maybe.
Yes. Our dear Lord, the demigods prayed. It is very difficult to understand your eternal form or personality. People in general are unable to understand your actual form. Therefore, you are personally descending to exhibit your original eternal form. Somehow people can understand the different incarnations of your lordship, but they are puzzled to understand the eternal form of Krishna with two hands, moving among human beings exactly like one of them. This eternal form of your lordship gives ever increasing transcendental pleasure to the devotees. But for the non-devotees, this form is very dangerous. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is very pleasing to the sadhus, the Parayatana Sadhyanam.
Putranaya sadhanam.
Yep. But this form is very dangerous for the demons because Krishna also descends to kill the demons. He is therefore simultaneously pleasing to the devotees and dangerous to the demons. So that's that paragraph. So that is Krishna when he had. That's interesting how he says, understand the eternal form of Krishna with two hands. Isn't that, how interesting is that? Isn't that interesting that it
Yeah.
like that? That's the guy we know. That's the, like, from like Sweet Baby Krishna to like the cowherd boy, and then running around in the forest with the gopis, and that's the guy that beats up the demon Keshava, right? There's that picture, that famous picture where he's like a little kid and he's like knocking this
Oh,
big,
Kamsa.
yeah, Kamsa, yeah. So that's the form that we really, that's like what we,
Yeah.
at least for me, that's what I think of.
Yeah. That's Jai. All goes to you, Prabhu. The Bhagavad Gita is saying that is the most exalted form of God worship. Actually, this is what Krishna explains so much in the Bhagavad Gita. We could talk for a whole other hour just on this paragraph. This is so important, and maybe we can pick up with this next time, because the Bhagavad Gita, it reveals everything that is being spoken of here. First of all, it's very difficult to understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna explains this in the Gita. It's very difficult for people that are not devoted to me. There's no way for them to know me. Great sages can meditate for thousands of years, and they will still be completely unable to even glimpse the glittering of the effulgence of my toenails, which is the object of their meditation. That's what they're going for.
Yeah.
Because whether they fully realize it or not, that is the shelter that they're seeking, again, to be at the feet of God. But he's saying they can't reach that.
Yeah.
And that he personally descends to exhibit his original eternal form. There again, this is foreshadowing things that Krishna himself will say in the Bhagavad Gita, because the Bhagavad Gita, it's an eternal science. Krishna says that in the beginning of the 4th chapter, that this science is eternal. And across the millenniums, when the knowledge of this science diminishes, I revive it. I revive it, and I also, Paritranaya Sadhanam, I come to reclaim the sadhus, and I punish the demons. So that is being cited, and to understand it. Yeah, this is so good. Somehow people can understand the different incarnations of your lordship, like Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva. It's like, okay, for people that come under the Hindu umbrella, that's natural to them. Okay, yeah, that's God. That's Bhagwan. Okay, I can understand that. Or, for the Western world, okay, this Jehovah, this all father personality, we don't have a real description of what he looks like, but we can all agree, yeah, that's God. Okay. But now you're telling me that a young cowherd boy with bluish black skin who plays a flute and who plays with cows and his friends, that's God? What?
That's what we're saying, bud.
That's what
That's
you're saying. Like, explain
welcome
to me.
to the
Like,
party. Welcome to the party. There's so
see,
many
it's a very,
people you're about to meet. It's going to be amazing. Yeah.
yeah, it's fun. We have fun with it, but other people are like, that just seems sentimental. How can you say that that's like a deeper philosophy than anything else? Just how can you say that that's a substantial, substantive claim that that's God? And so the demigods respond right here. What do they say? The eternal form of your lordship gives ever increasing transcendental pleasure to the devotees. That's how you know.
Because God is supposed to be like this old man with a big gray beard that's like up in the sky and is gonna like has like total control, and he might be mean, but then sometimes he's nice, sometimes he's like a wise old man. But we have this just ridiculous conception here in the Western world of like what God is, and it's that's why I love this so much. I love it because it flips everything on its head, just flips the whole concept of what God is on its head. And I love that. That is absolute genius. Balaram, my friend, we are going to have to pick up on this next
Okay,
time. We are
one more thought then,
completely out of
because
time.
yeah, sure. What you just said though is so nice because what is the concept that they're flipping on its head? And you're saying it. Um, the concept that God is some old man, like for a material mind, that kind of makes sense. And in the Eastern world, they'll say, yeah, and that old man has four arms, by the way. In the West, we're like, all right, maybe
Yeah.
we'll go with you on that.
Yeah.
But yes, that is God. Now, you flip that around and say, actually, that's not God. This all powerful being, okay, maybe he's got four arms, maybe he's got 100 arms, maybe he's got a giant beard. Who knows? Okay, whatever. But God is up there. And we're saying, no, actually, the highest concept of God is the one that you can exchange the most love with. And I don't think it's a stretch for anyone to think like, can you exchange more love with a four-armed old, like super old being as you can with like your spouse or your child, you know, or a very dear friend?
Mm. Yeah.
So if God is really God, that means he has to be capable, not only capable of reciprocating at least as much, if not more, probably definitely more than you can with all of your relationships on this earth. But he's also the source of all of those relationships. He's also the summation of all of them. So God means the one who loves you more than all beings in the universe combined. And being the source of them, that means you should be able to have the same type of relationship with him that you have in this world. Relationship of, you know, a master is certainly there. Oh Lord, yeah, that's definitely there. We have that in this world too. A teacher, a very dear friend. Yes, God can be your best friend. You can play with him in the groves of Vrindavan, chasing cows and playing cops and robbers. A parent,
Or just
you
playing with
can,
the tire and the stick.
yeah, you can do that eternally with God, and it will be more stimulating, more fun, more exciting than anything in this world. Krishna can be your child, so you can have that. That's a very loving relationship, and Krishna can ultimately be your lover as well. So the sadhus, these demigods, the devotees, they're saying, this is God. This is the real thing. This is the cause of all causes. All types of loving exchange, this is where you find all of them in full in their original form. And so that original form has to be all youthful, all blissful, all knowing, all powerful. Yeah, that's there too. But really, the emphasis on what really makes Bhagavan Bhagavan is, and this, I believe this is this is quoting someone. The real character that makes Bhagavan, the quality that makes God God is his sweetness. Madhurya is the most important quality that makes him actually God. And so this is the proof, this is the direct proof that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Jai. And you'll see. You don't have to take my word for it. Read this book. You will find out.
Let's end the show by reciting the Maha Mantra 3 times, Balaram, because
Jai.
God is in the mantra. He is the mantra.
Yes.
Yes. So
He is his names.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Jai. Thank you so much for watching our show and watching our podcast. We will be back again with much more information from the Krishna book. Have a very blessed day. And again, thank you for watching. Hare Krishna, everybody out there. Hare Bol.
Haribo.